Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to this meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee of the Cumbria Combined Authority. As the first meeting of the committee and in the absence of an appointed independent person as the chair, the first item of business today is the election of a chair for the panel for the ensuing year or until such a point as an independent person is appointed as chair. Do we have any nominations for the role of chair?
Yeah, I propose Councillor Hilary Carrick as the temporary chair until such time as the independent person is appointed and takes up that position as according to the rule.
And do we have a second for that? Are there any further nominations? Okay, so it be agreed that Councillor Rudhall is, Councillor Carrick is elected as chair of the Audit and Governance Committee for the ensuing year or until such time as an independent person is appointed. Okay, perfect. Councillor Carrick, would you like to take the chair?
Assuming I can say what I am, can I? Thank you. Thank you very much, team. Thank you for your confidence, and I'll do my best until we get an independent chair in position. You want me to carry on with the agenda? Yeah. So item 2 on the agenda is the election of a vice chair for the committee for the ensuing year. Do we have any nominations for vice chair, please?
I'll nominate Andrew Temple.
Do we have a seconder for that nomination? Any other nominations? No? Councillor Semple is duly elected as vice chair for the year. Congratulations. Apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence? No.
No, Chair, there's no apologies being submitted.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. I do note that on the table in front of some of us there are some declaration of interest forms, which I understand are for those that haven't already returned them completed. So if you do have one in front of you, in front of where your nameplate was positioned, then can you please complete it and hand it in before the end of the meeting? For anybody else, are there any other declarations in connection with anything else on the agenda? No? Okay, great, thank you. Item 5. Gosh, by the time they get here, we'll be finished. Item 5, exclusion of press and public. I'm looking for advice. I can't see any reason why anything on the agenda should be exempt. Press or public. Thank you very much. So it moves us on to the terms of reference for the committee, which is on pages 5 to 14 of the pack. John, are you going to introduce his paper for us?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in the absence of the monitoring officer, Catherine Parkinson, I'm happy to introduce the item. So this is the terms of reference for the Audit and Governance Committee, and it's taken from the Constitution, which is approved by the board on the 18th of March 2026. So very briefly, the purpose of the committee to provide independent assurance of the adequacy of the risk management framework and the control environment, and to provide scrutiny of the authority's financial and non-financial performance, and to oversee the financial reporting process. I don't propose to go through the detail, but the terms are as set out in the papers for consideration and feedback. And I would highlight that these terms will be brought to the committee on an annual basis for review. So plenty of opportunity to update on a regular basis if necessary. Happy to take any questions or take any feedback. Thank you.
Andy.
2.3
And can you mean by the difference between an officer with a capital O and an officer with a small?
I don't know if there is any significance of that, but we'll take this question and ask them. I think it probably means an officer of the combined authority in the first instance, and then the second for the officer from the constituent council.
Yeah, I get it now. I get it.
Any other questions, queries?
I mean, yeah, Chair, yes.
How is the independent person being recruited?
Again, I think probably that's a question for the monitoring officer when she comes back. So we'll pass that question on to her.
So it may be useful when you do get an answer if you can circulate them. So what's happening, how it's happening, just a bit more detail. I had a couple of points that I'm just seeking sort of greater clarification on. The first one. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment on page 9 of the document and paragraph 7.17C and 7.18A in relation to internal audit. They both reference the public sector internal audit standards, which are no longer in place. It's now the global internal audit standards, and there's also a reference to a SIP for publication, which is no longer applicable, but there is a new document in place, but I can provide wording outside of the committee to update the terms of reference appropriately.
Right. Thank you. Andy.
7.1.5 on page 8. I don't know what is meant by inappropriate scope or resource limitations. I just don't know what that means.
That would be whether there is limits on the scope of an internal audit piece of work, and whether that's linked to we're not having sufficient days to be able to progress it. So it's about having discussions to make sure that there aren't limitations on internal audit work, and that if there are, that we would notify the committee of that.
For me, probably yeah, maybe just detail or language. Paragraph 1.2 on page 5, terms of reference. What it says, I mean, saying about the importance of being apolitical, absolutely. Places a duty on appointees not to make inappropriate use of information provided to the Audit and Governance Committee for other purposes. Now, I would just like a bit more clarity stroke detail on that, in as much as these are public meetings, and I would have thought that the vast majority of information which is considered at the meeting is actually in the public domain anyway.
Yes, thank you for that. Again, we probably need to get clarification from the person who drafted the terms. So we'll come back to you on that. As I say, I think just as a kind of a sort of general comment that as a first draft, a number of these terms of reference will have been taken or borrowed from constituent council. So in some instances they may be not quite as appropriate as from the council from which they were taken. So there will be plenty of opportunity to update to make sure that they are appropriate going forward. So it's very helpful having these comments so that we can go back and make sure that they are robust and fulfil the purpose that they're supposed to. So thank you for that.
Couple more, honestly. 8.1.1, page 10, makes reference to the authority's auditor panel. What's that? Just the very final one. It's an observation, actually, that there is reference towards the back of the terms of reference. In fact, many references to the Standards Committee. I'm assuming it's because this committee subsumes some of the standards work, in as much as it's sort of standards, governance and audit. I don't know, I've just assumed that because of the multiple references to Standards and Governance Committee's agenda, or referred to the Standards Committee, then appears to be for this committee to actually deal with.
Again, we'll get clarification on the Standards Committee, but I think in terms of the auditor panel, so apologies, is that 8.1.1? Yeah, so I think, and again, people, external auditors might be able to provide some clarification, but I think when auditors are appointed, there are two routes for doing that. One is to use PSAA currently, and I think the vast majority of local authorities do that. The alternative, if you don't go down that route, then there is a requirement to set up an auditor panel. But in this instance, we haven't got that. We've gone down the PSA route, but I don't know if.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too, because I also wondered what it was when I read it, but you have gone through PSAA, which 99.9, I think, % of local authorities do in terms of external audit appointment.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, Andy.
A couple of things. The first is just hair splitting, but I mean, there are worse crimes than tautology. But 8.1.7, I defy anybody to tell me what the difference is between free and unfettered. And this phrase is used repeatedly throughout this document, but never mind. The other thing, though, is standards 13.1, members, capital M. Presumably that refers to members of this committee, because obviously members of constituent authorities already have a standards and system in place. So does this mean members of this committee? 13.1, to maintain a high standard of conduct by members. Who are these people? It must mean this committee, because members of constituent authorities already have in place mechanisms for maintaining high standards of conduct.
We'll get clarification, but I think that probably could mean any members who are members of the board or other committees or other subgroups that are part of the combined authority, but we'll get confirmation on that.
Okay, just find out who that means, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we've given that a good airing. So subject to being further clarification required on the terms of reference. I think we can say we have considered them fully and that we will get some updates on points that we've raised. No, thank you very much. Moves us on to item 7, internal audit plan. I'm assuming you're going to introduce it in the first place, are you, John, and then hand over?
Yes, please.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report introduces an internal audit charter as provided to the committee by our internal auditors, MIAA, together with the draft internal audit plan for 2026-27 for consideration and approval. And we have Daryl Davis and Ellie Lawson here to present both documents and here to answer any questions and receive any feedback. So thank you.
Everyone. So I'll take the internal audit charter as read, but I'll go through some key points. This any better? Yeah. Okay, so it's a formal document that comes to the committee annually with the internal audit plan. It's mandated through the Global Internal Audit Standards, and it will show our purpose, our mandate and our responsibilities. So some key areas from it is section 5 on page 23 is around quality assurance. So we recently had a quality assessment from CCA in 2025 that confirmed we were generally conforming with the Global Internal Audit Standards. That's the highest classification that CCA awards. And then there's also section 10, which is on communicating results on page 24. So to the AC, this will be via the progress report. So this will provide a summary of internal audit activity, any changes to the audit plan that need approval, and any concerns on the delivery of the head of internal audit opinion. And then section 7, this makes section 11, sorry, page 25, makes reference to the follow-up report. So any internal audits that take place, the actions will be collated into a follow-up report, and we will provide an update to the audit committee every quarter on this too. So I'm happy to take any questions on the internal audit charter.
Very much.
So because I want to use the mic. I just need to understand. So I'm on the Cumberland Audit Committee and familiar with Grant Thornton, although different faces, of course. And it's a very slick presentation, yeah, that you got. So and maybe a bit, for me, too much information. That's not a criticism, and that's just about me. But Chair, I just need to understand. But if we've got Grant Thornton, why do we need you? That's my question.
So we do internal audit, whereas Grant Thornton, we do internal audit, so Grant Thornton will do external. They'll look at your financial statements, whereas we will look at risk and governance and specific topics that could be a risk to the combined authority. So it's more looking at processes and controls in place rather than financial figures.
I still haven't quite got that, really, to be honest with you. So I know, so Grant Thornton are external auditors. I absolutely understand that. But I still don't know why do we need an internal auditor then?
You're required to have an internal audit function as an organisation. So all the councils will have an internal audit function as well. So we work with management looking at risk areas, governance and control. We look at operational areas, whereas the external audit are more focused on kind of financial statements and the audit of your financial statements. So we do cover kind of different areas, although we work closely together and share information on our findings from our audits, but we do have completely separate remits.
Okay, thanks. And sorry for these entry-level questions, Chair, but we're kind of finding our feet. And I guess what I would want to avoid is too lots of slick presentations, if you catch my drift. Because certainly reading the papers beforehand, we were into management speak a lot of the time. So if we can kind of avoid that, that would be good, Chair.
If it helps give you some context if you're on Cumberland, so they have an internal audit. So MIA doing the same role as Michael Roper and his team would do. Right. If that helps give you context.
Important that we all understand exactly who's in fact this formative stage. Be helpful. Couple of observations. I presume you're going to go on to the internal audit plan after this, but just while we're on this, because it will lead to a question that I will ask you under the internal audit plan as well. The monitoring progress that you've referred to, about follow-up process with management actions and that. I'd just like to know a little more about that and you know how you actually adopt a proportionate approach to those follow-up actions.
We'll produce a follow-up report every quarter, and how we do this process depends on the combined authority. So with some clients, we will do it where we have a lead in the organisation and they will collate. They will go to managers and say, you said you were going to do this. Have you done it by the implementation date? And then we will ask for the evidence to confirm that's been in place. So we will report to the audit committee if there's any delays, if there's any high risk actions that haven't been implemented by their implementation date, to give that accountability of why it hasn't been done.
So in terms of recommendations as a result of your work, the recommendations will come up with different grades of seriousness,
Yeah.
if you will. There'll be sort of high risk
medium,
actions,
low,
or- yeah. So would the follow-up be across all actions?
Yes.
It would. Right. I'll maybe come back to that when we look at that in comparison with the resources available, if that's okay, when we get to the internal audit plan. And the other thing, just to be equally fastidious with my colleagues, in your chart on pack page 25, where it says Audit and Governance Committee, the right-hand column, a subcommittee of the with overall responsibility. I think there's possibly something missing in the middle.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments on the chart? Right, well, if we can move into the internal audit plan, please, and then we'll take the recommendations together. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Chair. So I'll take you through the plan, which has been prepared following discussions primarily with John, who shared it also, I think, with the senior committees as well for their feedback. Very much, this is a first year plan. We recognise that the organisation is developing at a rapid pace, and there may well be a need to review the content of the plan as we go through the course of this current financial year. We've looked firstly at the risk register document that you've inherited following the creation of the authority, picked out some of the key issues that are in there, and also had conversations, as I said, with John around some of the priorities for this year. I think from our perspective, there's 3 core reviews which are contained within the plan, which are looking at governance arrangements, risk management arrangements, and also kind of key financial systems. And I think from our perspective, to get to year end, to be able to give you a robust annual report on the work that we've done, I think we need to do at least those 3 kind of core areas within the organisation to get some assurances as to how those functions and processes are working, and obviously to share those with you as an audit committee. Under the global internal audit standards, we are required to put mandated elements into the plan, and that's why we have time in there for management of the plan, a few days for contingency, and also, as well as we just kind of covered, some days in there for following up of recommendations that we raised during the course of the year. Each review that we issue will largely contain an action plan detailing issues that have been identified during the course of the audit. We will then discuss those with management and get their responses as to what action they intend to take. Or maybe in extreme circumstances, they may disagree with the recommendation, and obviously we'd bring that to the audit committee for discussion. As Ali touched on, there will be a timescale for implementation, and we will monitor delivery against that and report it back to the audit committee periodically as part of our progress. Included on the plan as well is some areas that we've identified, potentially that could be subject to audit, but haven't been prioritised in this current year's plan based on the resources that we have available as per the contract. But I think as we go through the course of the year, we'll be looking to develop a strategic audit plan, which will not only just reflect the work that we're going to undertake in this current year, but also looking into year 2 and year 3 to give you some ideas of the potential areas to be included within the audit. But again, these would be subject to review each year as part of the annual planning cycle. But at the moment, I'm happy to present the plan to you for comments and consideration. As I say, focusing on those 3 core areas in this year 1, but recognising there may be a request for further work during the year or a change in work, and we will liaise with management and with the committee accordingly if such changes arise. Thank you.
Comments? Clarification?
I'm referring to the diagram number 3. What is meant by Cumbria in this context?
I think that's just talking about the locality of Cumbria, so understanding the kind of issues, you know, how we deliver our work across Cumbria. So you're not the only client that we have in this particular area. So it's talking about on 3 levels. One is about as you as an organisation, as Cumbria as a wider environment, and then looking at the national picture as well. So it's looking at different perspectives. So we cover the organisation, local perspectives, but also national perspectives as well.
Asking you anything? Page 30, well, pack page 31, the page that has the your risk assessment, etc., and the diagram on the right-hand side. I'm assuming that the diagram on the right-hand side covers the whole sort of range of stuff that you get involved with. I'm just wondering about healthcare quality and transformation.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean it's just a generic diagram that we put in of all the services we offer. So that particular service wouldn't be really relating to the activities of the combined authority. That's where we work with NHS clients and looking at their kind of clinical systems and how they operate. But it is one of the teams within MIAA.
No, that's fine, thank you. It's what I suspected, but I did want it clarified for the record. And the other one, a couple of points on this proportionality again. On pack page 34, it's your section 5, internal audit risk assessment, the follow-ups again, where it says include a follow-up. And I've already asked the question, so I kind of know the answer. But on your appendix A, under the operational KPIs, monitor and follow up implementation of accepted recommendations. I'm just a little concerned that whether we should actually be following up on the really important things that aren't done, or, I mean, I understand particularly in the early days of this committee, it's important to understand what is likely to be delivered and what isn't. I can understand that. But I think once we've got past that very initial stage, I wouldn't wish a lot of your scarce resource to be spent chasing things which in the scale of things are kind of disproportionate. So it's just an observation on that. So we'll see how it works. I can see the importance initially, but I would like to revisit that potentially going forward. The other thing on your operational internal audit plan 6, section 6, you've detailed the activities, the review, the scope, you know, when it's likely to be done, who's going to be the lead, this, that, and the other. What you've not done is you've not given an indication of the breakdown of the 35 days that are available for carrying out this work and how that might be apportioned across the various headlines for the work. Is there any intention to do that, or is that kind of incredibly flexible?
We can do that, no problem at all. We tend not to put them into the standard document, but if that's something that the committee wants, then obviously we can update the document to put the days in accordance with the headings that are there.
Thanks. Page 34 of the pack, number 5, internal audit risk assessment. I'm looking at the diagram. Am I right in thinking that 2728 should read 2028? It seems a bit far-sighted otherwise.
There should be a dash in between 27-28, so it's the financial year 27-28.
I see.
Yeah.
No, 27/28.
Yeah, we're not looking that far.
Now I understand. Yeah.
Just a very final one, something that took me a while to sort of get my head around on your appendix A again, where it says measurement and frequency, and I was sort of reading down the measurement frequency column, and I thought, that's not very often, is it? And then I realised it's reporting frequency, rather than activity frequency.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
So, any further comments from anyone on this document? Come back to the recommendations, which are for us to note the internal audit charter, which has been set out, and we've had that explained. So are we content to note the charter? Yes, good, thank you very much. Consider the draft internal audit plan, which we have considered. We've made a few comments. Are we content that we have sufficiently considered that? Yes? Right. Thank you very much. So done everything that was required under item 7. Moves us on to item 8, which is the external auditor report. Just see, John, are you introducing this as well?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this report provides an introduction to the Combined Authority's newly appointed external auditors, Grant Thornton, following their appointment by PSAA, as mentioned earlier, to audit the accounts for the 2 years, 2026-27 and 27-28. And Grant Thornton have provided the committee with an introduction report, which sets out how they intend to deliver their responsibilities as the authority's external auditors, and the highlights emerging issues. And we have Liz Luddington and Faye Woodmass to go through the report and to answer any questions. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Chair. So just to introduce us, obviously I'm Liz, I'll be your external audit lead, and Faye will be your external audit manager. It's not very heavy on detail, this report, and the main reason being external audit is naturally quite retrospectively focused. So we're quite ahead of the cycle in terms of kind of bringing you a report at this stage. So it's just more of an introduction report. So obviously it's got my details there, it's got Faye's details, some of our experience. We've obviously had some meetings with John and Agatha to understand kind of the principles of the kind of things that we're going to be auditing. Even things like audit fees haven't been set yet by PSAA, so we can't report them at this stage. Obviously, once we can. There are various trainings and workshops we do. I did send it, but it was a little bit late. There was one on the 2nd of July, so I don't know if any of you managed to attend it, but I will check if that's been recorded, and we can always circulate the information at a later point. So page 48 of the pack has the deliverables for what would be the 26-27 audit. So that would take from when the authority was first established in February 2026 through to March 2027. So our intention would, subject to, because the audit committee dates aren't kind of set yet at this point, but bring an audit plan probably around April 27 next year. And then the absolute deadline for kind of completion of any external audits for this 26-27 period would be the 30th of November, to make sure that you're not captured by any of the backstop regulations and deadlines. So our intention would be to make sure that you've got our audit findings report, which is the report that discusses the financial statements audits and anything we found on the accounts and things like that. Our audit report, which would be my opinion on those financial statements, and our auditor's annual report, which is the one that looks at the authority's arrangements for delivering value for money across 3 areas that are defined by National Audit Office. So one is financial sustainability, one is governance, and the third is improving efficiency, effectiveness, and we call it the 3 E's because no one can ever remember what those are, can they? So those are the reports. Our intention would be they'd be delivered by November 27th at the latest, to make sure that the authority wouldn't hit any backstop deadlines. So page 49 kind of has the logistics of how that might play out. So I think the latest committee that's in at the moment is February 27. Around then is when we'll probably be doing planning meetings, working out scope, having things. Probably unlikely to have our plan ready for that committee, so it would be to whenever the following one is after that in the cycle. Yeah, that's kind of out of my hands, really. That's for the authority to set when the committee dates are. But it would be to the following committee, because it's unlikely on the timing of when we do all of our kind of audit plans that it will be done, because to be with you for the 8th of February means we'd have to do it pre-Christmas, whereas normally we do planning post-Christmas. So it would go to whenever that following committee is set for. Obviously the year end will be the March, and then depending on when the accounts are produced, usually the deadline is the 30th of June. So we then start our audit in July, and then kind of plan to do that. And as I've said, we would intend to sign off before the 30th of November so that there's no issues with backstop. The rest of the report is just more for your information. We tend to produce them when we're doing kind of progress updates or sector updates, just so you've got some links to things that might be of interest to you as a committee, might not be, but the information is there should you wish to kind of look at it. And that's all I was proposing today, but obviously happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. Any comments? Clarification? Were intended. Well, I think it's a good introduction of what the committee can expect. I think it's really helpful in terms of that. Always helpful to meet everybody that we'll be working with going forward. So I mean, I think, you know, across the board, it's been really useful for that. Just moving to the recommendations for this agenda item. So the first one, 2.1, note the formal communication from PSAA. Well, we've kind of had a report that is actually what's happened, but I'm not sure notes the formal communication. We haven't actually received the communication. We've been advised about the content of it. I know it's a bit nitpicky, but I wouldn't wish anybody to think in future that we'd actually had sight of this when we haven't.
Yeah, Chair, I think, look, we're all here for the first time, aren't we? And this is kind of like by way of a feedback. I think it maybe would have been helpful to have a couple of bit more straightforwardly kind of points about the things that you're talking about to note. Well, we've had lots of words and lots of diagrams, and maybe we could have been a bit shorter on the words and diagrams, Chair, and maybe just had a kind of few bullet points about because I think that's what you're getting at as well, Chair. But thank you.
Thank you. Just to go back to the point that the most of the content of the notice from PSAA is set in the background. Obviously, it's not haven't clarified that enough, but we can I can circulate the notification to members of the committee after this meeting, if that would help.
Only if there's anything that we've not seen. I think it was just that clarification, because it does imply that we've seen it, and to the best of my knowledge, reading the document, I haven't. So that clarification is helpful. If there's nothing else that's going to add any extra value to what we've already had, then I'm fine to accept that.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just where it says note the formal communication summarised below or something like that, just to indicate what's actually gone on.
Okay.
Subject to that, we're not asked to do an awful lot other than to understand how the committee is likely to work going forward and who's likely to be doing what. Content to note both aspects? Yes? Right, thank you very much. So that's agenda item 8. There isn't anything on for urgent items for AOB, etc., etc. So the last item on the agenda, according to mine, is the date of next meeting, which is to note that the next meeting of this committee will be held on the 9th of October at 10:30, and it'll be here again. So, to that, thank you very much.